watch from the sidelines as Atlanta ended the Cowboys' hope for a playoff berth. This year, it's payback time. Neon Dion versus Troy. Jerry versus Jimmy. It's Atlanta and Dallas in the preseason finale. Catch the most complete pregame look at Cowboys football on television. Countdown to kickoff. Friday at 7 on Channel 4, your official Dallas Cowboys station.
Just a little reminder from Nissan. Right now is the best time to get the best price on a 1991 Nissan, which means the best incentives of the year on the best cars of the year. So get to Nissan's best of the best 1991 clearance before the selection is gone. Best move you'll ever make.
News 4 Texas, your 24-hour news source, continues. This is News 4 Texas at 5.
Topping the news, 2 felony indictments against Dallas County Commissioner John Wiley Price.
Commissioner Price has just been indicted on 1 count of rape and 1 count of aggravated assault. News for Texas reporter Sean Rabb spoke with Price just a few hours ago. He is here now to fill us in. Mr. Price obviously was not expecting this today.
Exactly. At the time I talked with Commissioner Price, he had learned that his drug test results were back and that those were negative. At that time, however, he had not expected this type of response to come from a Dallas County grand jury. Of course, they had been looking into accusations and charges against Commissioner Price, some of those coming from altercations a couple of 3 weeks ago. Today, the grand jury, again, as John and Clarice mentioned, returned felony charges against the commissioner, and I spoke with him earlier this afternoon at his Oak Cliff home. Now, at that time, I talked with Commissioner Price about the felony indictments and the investigation that the grand jury was making into Commissioner Price. He said he really wasn't concerned about what was happening, and he wasn't concerned really about what the grand jury was going to do at that time. He said he had lawyers to handle that. Here's what Price had to say earlier today.
And so, you know, it's nonsense, but, you know, you say, well, you know, you're a public person, John, and therefore people can say things about you that are not slanderous that they can't say about other people, and therefore there is a more difficult test because you are a public person. And so therefore, you know, you either got to have some thick skin and be able to absorb it, you know, or try to save up your pennies and right before the 2-year statute of limitation, file your lawsuit.
Now, again, that's Commissioner Price talking about the investigation and the grand jury looking into charges against him. The grand jury has since, of course, returned 2 felony indictments within the past few minutes. Much more to learn about this story, and we'll have the coverage as details come in tonight at 6 on News 4 Texas. We'll have team coverage at that time.
Sean, thank you very much. Clarice?
President Bush says he sees a chance for Mikhail Gorbachev to speed the pace of reform in his country following the coup that put the Soviet president out of power for 3 days.
Mr. Bush held several impromptu news conferences from his vacation home in Maine today. The president says the world is a lot better off today than it was 48 hours ago. Mr. Bush also says he will not suggest to President Gorbachev how to run his government now that he is back. We'll have more on Gorbachev's return to power from News for Texas reporter Jose Grignon.
After 72 hours of house arrest, Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev returned to Moscow. Gorbachev praised Russian President Boris Yeltsin. He also told reporters that the Soviet citizenry was betrayed by those who were in the inner circle of his government.
People who I had designated, I had trusted them, believed in them, and they were not only participants, but were the organizers of the plot against the president, against the constitutional order, against perestroika, against the people, against democracy.
Gorbachev told the press that the 8 Soviet officials who masterminded the coup are in custody. He added the Soviet people have shown each other and the world that democracy appears to be taking hold in their country.
We do have a powerful democratic political movement, reform movement, and we have new values that have emerged at this juncture.
This afternoon, President Bush lifted the freeze on economic aid to the Soviet Union, saying now that some of the hardliners in the Soviet Union are on the sidelines, Gorbachev and Yeltsin might be freer to carry out some of their reforms. Jose Grignon, News 4 Texas.
Also from Moscow, fireworks today outside the Russian parliament as supporters of Russian Federation President Boris Yeltsin celebrate the popular overthrow of the Soviet coup. Thousands of supporters spent day after day around the clock outside the Russian White House to show their solidarity with Yeltsin. France's leader says the world should now show solidarity with Gorbachev. Francois Mitterrand says the West should send more financial aid to the Soviets. You'll recall a recent conference in London, Western leaders decided against any major aid for the Soviets. But Mitterrand now says that decision should be reconsidered.
Back in this country, African Americans and Hasidic Jews clashed for a third night in escalating racial violence in Brooklyn, New York. The latest violence comes despite efforts of New York Mayor David Dinkins and his police commissioner to ease tensions. Police say 18 civilians and 43 police officers were injured during violence yesterday. 37 people were arrested on various charges of assault.
A nationwide crackdown on armed drug dealers is underway right now, and Dallas is part of it. Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms agents and city police are serving federal arrest warrants of armed career criminals or people known to carry weapons during drug deals. A handful of Dallas locations are targeted, and when federal fugitives could not be found, Dallas police were often able to pick up suspects wanted on state charges. So far, there have been at least 14 local arrests, more than 325 nationally. Confessed serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer is facing 3 new charges today in Milwaukee. Dahmer now stands charged with 15 of the 17 murders that authorities say he's confessed to. In a Milwaukee courtroom today, Dahmer waived his right to a preliminary hearing, but did not enter a plea.
Also in court today, former PTL leader Jim Baker. Baker's 45-year prison term was thrown out in February by an appeals court, which said the sentencing judge's remarks were improper. Today, Baker's lawyers said the former television evangelist is ready to accept responsibility for his actions. The prosecution wants another harsh sentence, reminding the court that Baker bilked thousands of poor people out of every cent they had. A prison crisis in Alabama is growing more dangerous at this hour. Yesterday, dozens of inmates at the Talladega prison took 10 hostages. Today, threats that they will start killing those hostages unless demands are met. The prisoners, refugees of the Mariel boat lift of the 80s, all face deportation to their native Cuba. However, they want to stay in America. The hostages include 7 prison employees and 3 representatives of the Immigration and Naturalization Service.
A Fort Worth city councilman wants to make it tougher for teenagers to smoke. Texas law prohibits selling tobacco to minors, but that law is widely ignored. News for Texas reporter Betty Smith tells us the council wants to look at ways to enforce the law in Fort Worth.
Despite health warnings and laws prohibiting the sale of cigarettes to anyone under 18, many teens still smoke. The 16-year-old smokes, and so do a lot of his friends.
Where do you buy cigarettes?
Different stores.
They'll sell them to you even though you're under 18?
Yeah, some stores.
The store clerks don't ask for ID or nothing. They just sell them to you. I think that stopped a long time ago. Everywhere I go, they don't ask me.
Councilman David Chappell says the problem is widespread.
There's a significant percentage of kids, 15, 20%, who start smoking under 18. And that, of course, is illegal.
Chappell has asked city staff to look into ways to stop youths from buying cigarettes. One suggestion is putting a lockout device on vending machines, which Arlington has already done.
To buy cigarettes from a vending machine in Arlington, you can't just put your money in and push the button. You have to show the manager proof of age, and he will press this button to activate the machine.
It's an electronic device most often, and it's activated with a, much like a garage door opener.
The devices had to be in place August 1st. So Byrd says it's too soon to tell how effective they are. But so far, no citations have been issued. Betty Smith, News 4, Texas.
Meantime, the city of Arlington requires a license for all cigarette retailers. The license can be revoked for selling tobacco to minors.
Just ahead in our cover story, schools face a multitude of problems, and thousands of Texas parents are choosing an alternative.
Coming up, parents go public with their reasons for going private.
Don't wait to get your new glasses. Don't wait to get a great new look. At iMasters, you can use your Sears charge now and make no payments for 90 days. 90 days to wear the look you want. No payments and no finance charge. So put on a better look and put off paying. At the only store where you can use your Sears charge to get glasses in about an hour. iMasters.
Buy one, get one free. Or save $25 on one pair with iMaster's coupons.